Welcome to the Alberta College of Medical Diagnostic and Therapeutic Technologists overview of the process of how to become registered with the ACMDTT, also referred to as the College. This video overview is specific to recent graduates who have successfully completed a college-approved educational program and want to work, but have not yet successfully completed the approved entry to practice examination. Holding a temporary practice permit allows recent graduates to work until they pass the entry to practice exam. During this presentation, we will briefly review the role of a regulated health profession and what it means to be a regulated health professional. This will be followed by an overview of the requirements of and process to register for temporary registration and a temporary practice permit. In Alberta, a number of health professions are regulated by governing regulatory colleges through one piece of legislation, the Health Professions Act, or HPA. This legislation gives health colleges, like the ACMDTT, the regulatory authority and framework to govern and regulate their respective health professions and the rules by which Alberta's health professionals can legally provide healthcare services in Alberta. The ACMDTT was officially proclaimed a health college under the HPA in 2005. This means that the college has the authority to establish our own profession-specific policies for the registration and regulation of our members, also known as registrants or regulated members. The primary purpose of regulation of health professionals is protection of the public. That is, regulation assures the public that the members of health colleges are highly trained professionals who are accountable to their regulatory college for the quality of care they provide. Regulation is granted by the provincial government on behalf of the people of Alberta. In accordance with the HPA, each health college is governed by a council consisting of an equal number of public members and regulated members of the profession. Public members help ensure Albertans' interests are represented and protected by providing public perspective into council discussions and decisions. In other words, regulation of the profession is a responsibility shared equally by members of both the profession and members of the public. As the mission statement asserts, the Alberta College of Medical Diagnostic and Therapeutic Technologists exists so that the public is assured of receiving safe, competent, and ethical diagnostic and therapeutic care by regulated professionals. Notice the strong focus on the public receiving safe and competent care. The college regulates 5 distinct professional groups called specialties, which fall under 2 umbrella groups: medical radiation technologists, or MRTs, and electroneurophysiology technologists, or ENPs. MRTs consist of 4 specialties: magnetic resonance technology, nuclear medicine technology, radiation therapy, and radiological technology. ENPs consist of 1 specialty, electroneurophysiology technology. In the future, the college will also be regulating diagnostic medical sonographers, or DMS, the profession that performs ultrasounds. The mandatory registration of the DMS specialty will occur when the government amends our regulations. How does the college serve the public interest? The HPA is very specific as to the role of the college and what the college must do. The college implements the legislation for regulating technologists. In other words, it puts into action all the regulatory rules found in the HPA, other pieces of provincial legislation, and the ACMDTT's governing and guiding documents. The college, through the work of our council, establishes the entry to practice standards for technologists in Alberta, as well as creates and maintains our governing documents such as the Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. It is mandatory that each registrant upholds the Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice at all times in all dimensions of their professional practice. The college must maintain a public register of all regulated members who hold practice permits in the general and temporary registers. The public register contains mandatory information about each member that the HPA stipulates must be available to the public. We maintain a website with a live member register so the public can verify a practitioner's registration status in real time, or the public can call the office for the same information. The college must also administer a mandatory continuing competence program to help our members maintain and enhance their professional capabilities by having specific requirements for all general members to meet to maintain their registration. And when the ACMDTT receives a complaint about a regulated member, the college follows an objective and confidential process that is laid out in the HPA. Regulation benefits health professions through the standards that the college creates, maintains, and enforces. This means that regulated members can be assured that their colleagues have the education, training, and competency requirements to be registered in Alberta. Regulation also leads to enhanced professional identity that allows only regulated members to use the protected title MRT or ENP, which tells the public that the technologist providing their care possesses the knowledge and skills to provide safe, competent, and ethical care. The college helps members attain their regulatory requirements by providing professional development opportunities and tools to help them interpret and apply our key foundational documents like the Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. As mentioned at the start of the session, holding temporary registration or having a temporary practice permit only applies to recent graduates who have successfully completed a college-approved educational program and want to work, but have not yet successfully completed the approved entry to practice examination. Prior to applying for a temporary practice permit, employment must have been secured. A graduate can choose not to work prior to writing the entry to practice exam. In this case, once they pass the exam, they then apply for general registration in order to begin work. A temporary practice permit differs from a general practice permit in that the temporary practice permit is issued with the condition or restriction that the technologist must work under supervision of a regulated general member. Again, a temporary practice permit is only for people who want to work between the time they finish their educational program and write the exam. The ACMDTT Temporary Register Council policy defines what supervision of a person registered as a temporary member involves. The supervising regulated healthcare professional is required to provide indirect supervision to the temporary member. Indirect supervision means that a supervising regulated member must remain available for immediate physical assistance while the temporary member is performing a restricted activity. Availability by electronic devices is not acceptable, so the supervisor cannot be away from the clinic space with cell phone in hand to address any issues. Employers in Alberta are familiar with the supervision requirement, therefore expect it and insist on it. We will now review the specific requirements of applying for temporary registration. The first requirement is graduation from a college-approved program. A temporary practice permit will not be issued without the college receiving an email notification from the educational program that an individual has met all of the requirements to graduate from their program. Applicants are asked to submit or upload a copy of their diploma, official transcript, or a letter from the program verifying graduation. It is important that you allow time for the college to receive the required documents. Requirement number 2 to register for a temporary practice permit is to obtain professional liability insurance or PLI. The requirement for PLI is in place to protect both the patient and the regulated member. By having PLI, a member is protected professionally and financially from real, alleged, or false claims made against that member as a result of rendering professional services. The patient is protected should the claim be substantiated and damages awarded to the patient. As per legislation and our regulations, all regulated college members who hold general or temporary registration are required to have a minimum of $2 million PLI per occurrence. Members must provide confirmation of PLI through their application form. The college encourages all regulated members to hold personal PLI, even if you have coverage through your employer. There are risks for regulated members who rely solely on employer insurance. Employer PLI policies generally protect the employer and have limitations that do not necessarily protect the employee. For example, employer policies do not always cover expenses such as legal defense in professional disciplinary matters. The employer's insurance company may sue you for reimbursement of any money they paid out as a result of your actions. Employer PLI would not cover a member who works for multiple employers in all sites. If you leave your employment, you are no longer covered by your employer PLI, but there is a period of time during which patients may still bring a claim against you, and the insurance may not cover you for any advice or volunteering done outside of work. There are many sources for personal PLI, including, but not limited to, CAMRT, Medical Imaging Ed, or other third-party insurance companies. The college cannot provide PLI to its members, as this would be a conflict of interest should a complaint arise. The third requirement is to complete the temporary registration application online through our website. When you are at this step, one of three scenarios will apply to you. You're applying as a brand new member, or you have current student membership with the college, or your student membership has expired. If you are applying as a new member, you will first have to create a My Profile account and then apply for a temporary practice permit through a link that will appear in your profile. If you have an active student membership or your membership has expired, you will be able to apply by going to your online profile and clicking on the Apply for Temporary Registration link. This will take you to the application form. Once you have access to the application, completion of the form is fairly self-explanatory. More on how to fill out the application will be covered in upcoming slides. It is important that you answer all of the required questions and fields prior to submitting the application to the college. The Regulation Education Module, or REM, is another required step. The REM is an online tool designed to help you understand your role as a regulated member of the college. If you are or were a student member with the college, you would have had access to the REM and you would have been encouraged to complete it to prepare for your future professional practice. Access to the REM will be made available to you 24 hours after initiating your application. As indicated in this slide, once you have successfully completed the REM, you will be issued a certificate of completion. You must upload the certificate within your online application as proof of completing this registration requirement. Both the HPA and our regulations require criminal record checks of all applicants. As per our regulations, the criminal record check is one of the means of providing evidence of an applicant's good character and reputation. You will not have to complete another criminal check unless you're randomly audited by the college or you resign your registration and then wish to return to practice again. The criminal record check will be covered in more detail in a forthcoming slide. The final requirement for the registration process is the payment of the fees. Once the college approves your application, you will receive an email message indicating you can now pay your fees online. To pay the fees, you simply click on the link in the email, which will take you directly to your invoice to pay online. It will not be possible to pay the fees until your application has been approved by both your supervisor and the college. Once your fees are paid, you'll be able to download your receipt and your temporary practice permit directly from your online profile. There are two fees that you will need to pay when applying for a temporary practice permit. The first fee is the application fee, which is $100. This application fee is waived if you are a student member of the college. The second fee is the registration fee, and what you pay depends on what time of the year you apply for registration. If you register prior to July 1, the registration fee is $450. If you register on or after July 1st, the fee is reduced to $225. You will not need to pay any additional fees to move from a temporary practice permit to a general practice permit unless you have to renew your registration for the new registration year, which starts January 1. A question that applicants ask the college is, can they practice as a technologist before they are registered? And the answer is a firm no. You must ensure you have a practice permit before beginning your employment. If you start work without a practice permit, it is considered unprofessional conduct. Mandatory registration applies to all areas of practice, including clinical care, education, management, research, administration, supervision of technologists, and any other activities that impact the practice of the profession or contribute to the promotion and protection of public safety. The next series of slides will review all of the steps involved with the online application process. To begin the process, on the ACMDTT website, click on the Applicants tab in the top banner and scroll down the drop-down menu to click on the Temporary Registration box. The screen that appears will show the detailed list of steps that are involved with completing the application. As covered in a previous slide, steps 1 and 2 address what to do if you are not currently registered as a student member or if you are currently a student member. If you do not remember the password to your profile, use the password reset link. If you do not remember what email you used for your account, contact the college for assistance. Please do not create a new account if you already have one. Clicking on the link in step 1 that says register for an account will bring up this screen and box. Options 3 and 4 apply to students. Please note, you do not have to be a student member to apply for temporary registration. If you were not a student member before beginning to apply for temporary registration, simply apply directly for the temporary permit. Do not first apply for a student membership, followed closely by applying for temporary registration. Student membership is intended to be active during the school terms, not when you are close to completion of the program. Follow the instructions that apply to your situation. Again, if you already have a profile and you forgot the email address you used, contact the college for assistance. This slide shows your profile page and the different registration routes. Ensure you choose the correct route. Select temporary if you're going to be working before completing the entry to practice exam, or choose general after you have successfully completed the entry to practice examination. Simply click on Apply in the appropriate registration box to begin the online application process. This image shows the first section of the online temporary application. When you click on the drop-down menu in the application type box, your only option to choose will be temporary. You can now begin to enter all of the information in the required categories and fields. As you work through the sections, it is important that you complete everything and upload all the required supporting documentation. Otherwise, the computer program will not allow you to submit the application. This slide shows the section where you enter the details of the educational program you are completing. Some of the fields have drop-down menus to assist with filling in accurate data. It is in this section that you will also upload a copy of your supporting documents, such as a copy of your diploma or letter from the program. All supporting documents must be in PDF format for uploading. If you are wondering if you can start an application, then save it to complete later. At the bottom of the application form are the options to submit, save for later, or withdraw. Save for later will provide you a link in your profile page that allows you to go back to the application and finish it at another time. Withdraw allows you to start over again if something went wrong. If you choose Save for Later, when you return to your profile, you will see the option to update your temporary application as shown in the image at the bottom of the slide. Simply click on Update and you will be returned to the form. Following the education section is the section for employment. As has already been discussed, the first requirement of being eligible to apply for a temporary practice permit is you must have secured a job. This screen shows what information you need to enter regarding your position. It is important to enter the start date of your employment as you will need to allow time for the college to process your application. The college's processing time for an application is 3 business days, providing that the application is complete, a regulated member has verified they will be your supervisor, and the application does not need to be returned to you for clarification or because of missing information. Also in the employment section is where you enter the information for any employer-provided professional liability insurance coverage. Here you enter the name of the employer and the policy number you obtained from them. It is very important, if you only have employer-provided PLI, that you know what the policy covers and what it does not cover. The employment section is where you enter the information for a general member who is going to be your supervisor. You must complete the supervisor declaration section and be sure to enter their correct email address. By entering an email address in this area, a link will be sent to the supervisor so they can verify that they will supervise you during the time you hold a temporary practice permit. If the email address is incorrect, the verification link will not reach the supervisor and your application will be delayed. The section following the employment area is for entering the information if you've obtained your own personal professional liability insurance from a third-party provider. Choose the insurance provider from the drop-down menu, then enter the policy number. If you submit the application and you become aware of changes that need to be made to this section, please notify the registration team as soon as possible and they will be able to help you. The college requires that all applicants residing in Canada complete their criminal record checks through My Backcheck, an easy online service provided by Sterling Backcheck. My Backcheck is a quick and easy-to-use service that provides applicants with a more cost-effective way of obtaining their criminal record checks. The fee for the service is $29 and is paid directly to Sterling Backcheck. The college receives the results directly from Sterling Backcheck, generally within 4 to 24 hours of the request, allowing for a more efficient and streamlined application process. There is a link in the application form, as circled in red at the top of the screen, that will take you directly to the criminal record check screen of the college website. From that page, you want to choose the option for applicants residing in Canada, and then within the instructions are links to connect you to the Sterling Backcheck homepage. The black Sterling Backcheck screen should now appear when either link is selected. To begin the process, simply select Start My Check, as pointed out by the red arrow. It is important that you initiate the process through the correct website in order for the college to receive the results directly and for you to receive the discounted rate of $29. It is also important to note that all My Backcheck results are considered valid for 1 year from the date of issue. If you wish, you can get your criminal record check done prior to starting your application by visiting the link on the college website, either under step number 5 on the temporary registration page or through the Applicants tab at the top of the home page, then selecting Registration Requirements and Criminal Record Check at the bottom of the drop-down menu. Again, please note, if you reside in Canada, you must complete the criminal record check through My Backcheck. The college will not accept any other forms of a criminal record check. In order to provide safe and competent care to the Alberta public, the regulation requires that applicants must be reasonably proficient in English. The college has a policy that requires applicants to provide evidence of their English proficiency. College-approved Alberta programs are taught in English, so this is not an issue for Alberta graduates. For graduates from outside of Alberta, the policy could apply, and as such, those applicants may need to provide evidence of their proficiency with the language. Earlier on in the education section of the application, you had to indicate the language of instruction of your program. In this section of the application, you have 3 mandatory declarations to answer regarding the English language requirement. Following up on the Regulation Education module from an earlier slide, this screen shows what the REM section in the application looks like. Follow the instructions within the section to complete the REM. If you have previously changed your password to your profile, please use your current password and not the one that is automatically sent to you in the section indicated by the red arrow in the sample on the screen. It is within this section where you will upload your certificate of completion that verifies you successfully completed the REM. The next section requires that applicants acknowledge 2 declarations applicable to their PLI coverage and the required minimum $2 million coverage per occurrence. The Declaration of Conduct is a very important section of the application. The college has several requirements for registration that relate to the past and present conduct of applicants. If you answer yes to any of the first 5 questions in the bottom section, you are asked to provide the college with a detailed explanation along with any relevant documentation explaining the situation. It will be the decision of the registrar as to how to proceed with your application. Please allow for additional processing time if this does apply to you. Again, it's very important that you fully read and understand the Declaration of Compliance. Please do not simply check off the boxes to the 5 statements. It is unlawful to provide a false statement, and if you are not compliant with the college, it is grounds for unprofessional conduct. The Declaration of Compliance concludes the application. As covered in a previous slide, at the end of the application are the options to submit, save for later, or withdraw your application. Select Save for Later if you'll be returning to the application to upload supporting documents such as your diploma or REM certificate. Only when your application is fully complete do you choose the Submit option at the bottom of the application. Please take special note of the warning message that appears on the screen before your final submission. When entering your employment start date, we cannot emphasize enough that you take into account the college requires 3 business days after receiving your completed application form and the email verification from the supervisor to review the application. Only when everything is complete and correct does the college issue your practice permit and you can begin work. Applications are reviewed in the order they are received and the order in which the supervisor's verification is received, not by proposed start dates. Again, keep in mind that the college receives a significant number of applications at the same time, and our registration department requires the time to thoroughly review each application. If the college finds an issue with your application, it will be returned to you and will extend the time before it is approved and you can start work. Following up on an earlier slide about the public register, this is what the website's public register search screen looks like. The public can search for any regulated practicing member by the member's registration number, first name, or last name. The information that is revealed comes from the 2 registers the college maintains for the temporary and general members who have active registration, as well as those members who have resigned. When a search is complete and a member is chosen who holds a temporary practice permit, must work under supervision appears in the box for conditions and restrictions for that member. The other information that appears is the full name of the member, registration number, the active, suspended, or canceled status of the practice permit, whether the registration is restricted to a period of time, and any additional and enhanced practice authorizations. Once you pass the entry to practice exam and become a general member, the condition and restriction is removed. Unlike a general practice permit, which is valid until December 31 of each year, a temporary practice permit is issued only until the month after the next entry to practice exam is written. As per the example on the slide, if the college issues a temporary practice permit to me on July 1 and the next CAMRT exam is being held in mid-September, to allow adequate time for me to write the exam and learn the results, which is approximately 3 weeks after taking the exam, my temporary practice permit will be valid until the end of the month after the September exam, or in this case, October 31st. It is important for temporary practice permit holders to write the entry to practice exam as soon as they can after they graduate to show their competence as technologists. You can apply to move from temporary to general registration only after you've passed the entry to practice exam and submit proof of completion along with the application. The image on the slide shows the document CAMRT issues as proof of passing the exam. What happens if a temporary member does not pass the entry to practice exam and they want to keep working until they can try again, but their temporary practice permit will expire before the next test? If this is the case, the college can grant a short extension to the temporary practice permit based on the next exam date. The college does track the test results, and if a temporary member is not successful in passing the exam, the registration team notifies them of their options and provides information to the member on how to apply for an extension. A member can also contact the office directly after they receive their unsuccessful exam results. If a temporary member is eligible for an extension, both the member and their supervisor are advised of the new expiry date. These are some common questions that the college receives specific to general registration and practice permits. The first question being, what happens if I decide not to get a job until I pass the entry to practice exam? It is not mandatory to work prior to writing the entry to practice exam. If a graduate decides to wait to start work until after they pass the exam, they then simply directly apply for a general practice permit and after being approved can start to work. Do I need a job to apply for general registration? No, you do not. You can apply for and obtain your general practice permit, and then you will be ready to start a job once you secure one. Do I need to pay any additional fees to switch from a temporary practice permit to a general practice permit? There are no additional fees unless you must renew your temporary practice permit at the end of the year on December 31st. You also do not have to retake the REM or have another criminal record check if the switch is done within 1 year since the most recent criminal record check was done. What do I need to know when I move to general registration? As a general registrant, you need to meet all of the requirements for registration and renewal, and you will no longer be required to work under indirect supervision, and the must work under supervision condition will no longer show on the public register or on your practice permit. Temporary members are able to apply for additional authorizations for venipuncture, breast, bladder, and prostate ultrasound, needle authorization, and automated breast ultrasound. Applying for additional authorization is done through the online portal and requires documentation and supervisor approval of the authorization application. When the authorization is approved, it will be added to the member's profile and will show on the practice permit as well as the public register. This concludes the overview of the process of how to become registered with a temporary practice permit with the ACMDTT. If you have any questions or need more information, please reach out to the college's registration team at 780-487-6130, extension 523, toll free at 1-800-282-2165, or by email at registration@acmdtt.com.